Here, we're just gonna turn them back on. Did you fix anything? Hey,
No.
we turned on the servers for you again. That's what you asked. Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, wherever you are tuning in from. This is the BS Buddies podcast. I am your host, Joe. That is your host, Ian. And Ian, what are we talking about today?
Today we've got on the agenda, in light of recent news, video game remasters that are coming out or have come out. Pros, cons, which ones have been good, which ones have been sucky, and which ones are we hoping are turning out good. Specifically, in reference to, in case anyone didn't hear, EA is bringing back the original Star Wars Battlefront games. And I am one of those individuals who grew up in the PS2 era, and that was probably one of the early games that I got. You know, Star Wars, pretty recognizable brand. I was probably 8 years old, and some used video game store. Oh my god! And then, picked that game up, and then I didn't realize I was getting myself a whole buffet of good memories to look back on for the next how many years of my life. And now, Joe, now we get to bring them back. This time with online. So those of us who didn't have DSL broadband dial-up back in the day, and listen to your modem scream through the telephone headset, who never got to experience the joys of online in the PS2 era, we can finally have our moment.
Yeah, we had dial-up for a bit. Dial-up sucked, so my parents got rid of it. But
On a side note, I just remembered because dial-up was so slow. I mean, just to look at a comparison, right? Now when I download things on my console, I can see the little thing tells me 50, 60, 70, 80 megabytes per second. And for comparison, DSL was like hundreds of kilobytes per second, which is a massive downgrade because it's like 1,000 kilobytes is 1 megabyte.
yep.
So that's where you get those old Windows download boxes, and it would be like estimated completion time 39 years, and you're like, what? In what universe? And okay, sure. And then you just walk out of the room for a while and come back. What's it say now? Now it says 54 years. Well, we'll get there eventually.
But going back to Battlefront, I was telling Ian before we recorded this, Battlefront was the only game I didn't own it, but my cousins did. It was the first game that I ever played where like you had to move with one of the joysticks and look around with the other joystick, and I felt so stupid. I played on N64, and like they had a PS2, so I got to play that a little bit. We mostly did GTA, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but uh, Battlefront, I didn't have a great experience, but I mean, it was a total of like an hour, and I mostly just watched. But once I got an Xbox One, I got like the newer Battlefront and played that with friends, and that was a ton of fun. And I know EA was doing some shady stuff with I I can't quite remember, but I wasn't gonna pay any more than I had to. But I I I had fun. I had fun on it while I played.
It was a good time. It was a good time all around. Well, and Battlefront for me was the Galactic Conquest was where it was at. I went through and I played all the campaigns, so I was well familiar with all of that stuff. But the Galactic Conquest, honestly, was I think it was a throwaway mode. If I'm remembering my history correctly, the Galactic Conquest was just kind of like a last second, like that sounds like something fun that people might enjoy. Let's throw that in on there. So I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, that when this drops on March 14th, it will have cooperative online Galactic Conquest. Because nothing would be better than being able to take over the universe with your best bud at your side. You can be like Palps and Vader up there, just, eliminate the planet, and, boom, away it goes. But one of the things I've seen, I'll have to send you, I have a video of the trailer on my phone that I'll have to send you after this so that you can see. They've done a little bit of touching up to the graphics, as I was explaining to Joe before we started this video. They didn't completely redo the graphics on it. It's a similar thing to what they did when they remastered the Grand Theft Auto series, where they're sort of touching up the rough
Like
edges.
kind of a facelift, a little bit,
Yeah,
like a
just
slight facelift.
a little nip and tuck here and there. And one of the things though that I'm noticing right off the get go from this trailer, which is not a deal breaker for me in any way, shape, or form, and there is a secondary example of this that I can provide with one of our Call of Duty games that we're going to talk about. But I'm noticing it's kind of referred to as the saran wrap effect, where in their effort to sort of brush up the textures and make everything look modern, it gives it this shiny appearance where surfaces that wouldn't normally be shiny are still very reflective, like gravel and wood and concrete, things that aren't supposed to reflect light like super, you know what I mean? Like looks like
I,
chrome. And essentially what ends up happening is due to however they remaster it, it looks like everything's become wrapped in saran wrap because everything takes on this sheen of gleaming, and you're like, ah, jeez, I didn't realize I needed to bring my sunglasses here. It's ridiculous.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
it's better than what COD did for however many years, where they went with the realistic, but it was just a slight hue of gray everywhere.
it's
And
great.
like the original Modern Warfares, if you haven't played it, it's like I heard they were gonna make it as realistic as possible, but everything had this like grayish, greenish just shade to everything. I mean, those games were great, but it's like you look back on it now and it's like,
You're like, holy
man,
moly, that is a lot
yeah,
of
that
gray.
it's so
To be
it's
fair,
so much.
those games did come out in the era when like shades of gray and shades of brown was considered ultra realistic. I mean, just for example, I don't know if you ever played Fallout 3. Look at Fallout 3.
Oh my, Fallout 3 is awful with that. It's just green.
The color gradient was somewhere between poop and dirty water. That was all the more color. That was the entire budget they were allotted for that color gradient.
Like
They had really nothing.
even when they went to New Vegas, which was very brown, but I mean it was desert. Like it still had its reds, its oranges, its brown, but no, like Fallout 3 and Modern Warfare games, not the current ones, the OGs, just one shade over everything. That'll make it look real.
Yeah,
But
it's nice and gritty.
well, while we're on the topic of COD, we're gonna change gears a little bit. And I'm a big COD connoisseur. Granted, I didn't buy the new Modern Warfare 3, and I've never played Vanguard either, but the rest I have played for the most part. Ian's the Battlefield guy. Just just so we know. And why I bring this up is when Microsoft kind of bought Activision, or that whole thing happened, they're like, oh, we're going to revive all the servers of your favorite games. And then it just went to, hey, try and find a game without a hacker. I bet you can't. And
That's what it always turns into. I
the,
remember on the days of the PS3. Sorry, short tangent. What you reminded me of it is in the days of the PS3 when Modern Warfare 2 was dying. You know, Modern Warfare 3 was popular, and heck, I think by that point we were already pushing on to like Advanced Warfare or something. And before I got my newer generation of console, you could not find a regular lobby. I remember I joined one lobby and started running. I didn't even know it was a hack lobby. I just started running
those are the
around.
worst.
I started running around, and there was a little something in front of me, a little step ledge, whatever, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna jump up onto this ledge, and I hit jump, and boing! Suddenly I was like 32 stories in the air, and I was like, I don't know what's happening, but this is different. And then as I thought, is this a glitch? Is this on my end? Is this just something else? As I was flying through the air, I saw somebody else go woo, fly past me. So to some degree, it was funny, but for the most part, it would get annoying, especially if the hackers weren't making it fun for everybody and just making it fun for themselves, which and you suck.
Yeah, and then there's definitely those matches you would join and you would like hit some shots on a guy, but he beat you in the gunfight, or it's a knifer. You're like, man, like I thought I had him. That's weird. And then like you see him again and you get a couple shots off and it's like, what? And then by the third time around and they're like 50 feet away and you're just gunning them down, but they're still running straight at you because they have God mode on. Yeah, then it's not so fun. The thing, my one of my favorite CODs, and a lot of people can attest to this, is Black Ops 2 multiplayer. Was amazing. I had so many good memories with my buddies, but then trying to go back to it, it was always just filled with hackers, and that's basic. They shut down the servers for all the old CODs, and they put them back up, and it was the same hacked game, is what I'm getting at. And I think they shut down the servers again within like a month.
They
Like
didn't do
it's
any
like
house cleaning on it. They were like,
they
yeah, here you go, you nerds. Have fun with these old games that you can remember fondly. Except guess what? They suck now.
yeah, they
Yeah.
didn't do any anti cheat or anything, so it's just like here, we're just gonna turn them back on. Did you fix anything? Hey, we
No.
turned on the servers for you again. That's what you
Uh,
asked.
yeah, I think, as far as Call of Duty goes, I am more of a classic Call of Duty fan. And what I mean by that is I am an old man in spirit. And the original Call of Duty, 2003, Call of Duty Finest Hour, Call of Duty Big Red 1, Call of Duty 2, Call of Duty 3, those were my favorite. Granted, that was in the era when World War II shooters were all the rage, so they
And
are
then everyone got
World
tired of them because
World
they
War
did them
II
all the
games.
time.
They did. However, they were fantastic. And what's ironic is that Call of Duty 3 game came out in 2006. All right, the PlayStation 3 was brand new. Call of Duty 3 still has servers online to this day that you
Yep.
can join and play. And it's actually amazing. And it's funny because that's back in the time when Call of Duty had tanks. You can drive around tanks in the game. You can drive around jeeps. You can drive around motorcycles. You can mount machine guns on ledges. Like there's all kinds of crazy stuff that you're like, wow, this is amazing that this game was this advanced for its time frame. And Call of Duty 3 is actually what I was referring to earlier with that saran wrap effect because Call of Duty 3 being in 2006 timeframe, they released them on both the previous generation and the newer generation. So you had original Xbox and PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 versions. And when they ported it over to the PS3 and the 360, they did the same thing that they did with what looks to be the new Battlefront, where they cleaned up the edges, um, updated a few textures, but everything ended up having this saran wrap look. So here you're holding your rifle, which is made mostly with wood furniture on it, but you
Yeah.
hit the sun at just the right angle and it gleams at you like a piece of glass. And you're like, okay, well, everybody and their mother is going to know where I am on the map now. But Call of Duty 3 is probably one of my favorite online experiences of all time since or before or since. That is the words I'm trying to say. And as far as remasters go, it's okay in my eyes, but I will say, just like how they reactivated those old servers and they got full of hackers, Call of Duty 3 servers still has a bunch of old glitches and exploits that you can still use because they never fixed them.
And
Because
they won't.
the
Yeah.
servers have been online for 18 years now. They're not going to do anything.
I think that kind of takes us into the last bigger topic, and that's the GTA remastered that they came up with. The 3 game set that they want you to pay $60 for, and it was, at least upon release, I don't know if they fixed it, but it was broken.
Absolutely
Like,
broken.
like
And as like I was telling you before, with you know how they did the upgrades was essentially just a script that went through and cleaned everything up automatically. It wasn't people going through and manually making sure their work was good. It was just like, no, just flip the computer, figure it out, it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
yeah, so I watched one YouTuber at the time it came out, and immediately he said like this game is broken, and he was playing San Andreas, and I think in one point of the video you would get on a bicycle and then you would just disappear. Like there was, you couldn't see yourself anymore, and you're just like, the screen is moving, but you have no idea where you are. And yeah, the classic Rockstar, like, hey, we're gonna make them pay like a full price game for like a $5 quality game.
I don't know what they're like. Granted, they had the right idea, and I think on a larger scale, that is the issue: is that these big companies know that the consumers are going to eat it up, especially if they bring back an old game. So then they put a not very much effort into making sure that it's going to be good, and everybody gets on expecting, boy, I can't wait to relive my childhood, and then they boot it up and they're like, what is this garbage? This is not a game. This is disgustingness on a plate that you served me and then slapped me in the face and told me to tip 150%. This is horrific. What is this? And the game company's like, well, if you don't want it, you shouldn't have bought it. And you're like,
We kind of recorded 2 episodes in one video, so the editing might look a little funny at this point. And Ian said he's not going to be helping with that point. So we're gonna just go to quotes. Hopefully, it turned out all right.
but
My quote is by Mr. Albert Einstein: "Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow."
That's a good one.
But both of you from these videos are getting the same outro because I don't want to edit 2 separate ones, I guess.
Yeah, you get to see us twice. Hello,
So,
us in the past and us in the future. How you doing? Good. Thanks, me. Appreciate it, me. You're welcome, me.
so thank you guys for BSing with us today. Follow or subscribe to become a bud today. We will see you next time when we find
When we're
some
still
more.
waiting for GTA 6.
Yeah, probably. I think we'll hit 300 episodes before GTA 6 comes out.
And we'll hit 1,000 episodes before Elder Scrolls 6 comes out.
That's never coming out. Goodbye.
No. Take her easy now.